convinced about where the lines are drawn on rights issues, which is why we're actually discussing this and giving information. Because if we get the word out, get people encouraged and interested in getting information about the subject, it may change their mind, as it did for your partner. Mm-hmm. So, and you know, I mentioned that we've got pros and cons. We'll probably touch on some of them depending on how much time we got. But we got full phone lines. Yeah, let's I want to try and get to as many as possible. So I apologize if we go through this quickly, but all of a sudden the line's filled up. So Mike, how you doing? Good.
Nice talking to you guys.
Did you squirm much during the topic?
Yeah, I did. As a matter of fact, you come out of the deepness of my voice. So yes, I did that. Listen, I talked to your screen and you said it was okay if I went off topic really.
Sure.
Off topic, but not really that much. Glad I'm calling you late on the subject of abortion, and I'm just glad I call in late so you don't get a lot of everybody's going to talk about abortion calls. But the thing is, I've had undergone a kind of a change of heart toward my attitude toward now. Right now, currently, I am let the women decide is now my new stance. I don't one way or the other. Just I think the women should fight over it's their body, let them vote on it, and then just men step aside. But that's where I stand now. Mm-hmm. Originally, I was kind of like pro-choice, blase, abortion, who cares? The soul will come back, and God will provide another place for the soul to enter the earth, and that's how I looked on it. Like man can't stop souls from entering the earth because God does it. That's back, but now in the dwindling gravity of my religious conviction has led me to think that, as you have stated as atheists, that we have this one shot on life. And there's no reincarnation, there's no afterlife, that every minute is precious. And they suddenly, ironically, if you seem to get my drift, to lean toward abortion being not a really bad thing, that it really is depriving somebody of life. Do you see the irony of how my...
Well, we had problems with the audio, so I'm not sure I got to hear all your question, but basically you were saying that your opinion on abortion has changed as your belief in God has dwindled.
Yes.
But that you've gone from a position where abortion was a non-issue for you to one where you may actually be opposed?
As I approach, I don't think I'll ever be a full-on atheist, but I think that I just think it's ironic that as a full-on Christian that I supported, I guess I could say, supported abortion, turned my back to it, and now as I become not an atheist really, but fully I'm starting to have the questions I guess a lot of people do when they get older, like, yeah, really, religion. But then I'm thinking, this is the one life, as you have said, as atheists, that I'm less religious, and ironically, I'm against abortion, whereas the stereotype is that Christians hate abortion,
Sure.
And then that,
to be
non-believers
fair,
what you would think.
There are, atheism doesn't prescribe, it doesn't have any dogmatic tenets, and doesn't prescribe any position on abortion, and I know other atheists who are opposed to abortion or who are pro-life or whatever for various reasons. You're listening here in Austin, right, Mike?
Yes, I do.
Okay. There's another caller who's got a question almost identical to yours. So I'm going to go ahead and drop you, and we'll hit him and try and answer the question that way.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
All right.
We got, is it Ethan?
Yeah.
How you doing, Ethan? You had a question almost like the last callers?
Yeah, it's related. It's a little different, but I was going to actually see on the issue of rights, and if you're going to argue from the side of rights and talk about children as property, then what would I guess both your views be then on abortion? And if you are pro-choice, then how do you justify that as saying arguing from the standpoint of it's wrong to from the rights standpoint because the baby has these rights that we can't perform the circumcision based on that, because I'm not calling to advocate or criticize circumcision as a practice in general, but and how you would justify that then with
it's a valid question. You want to start with it?
Yeah, I think there's a huge difference between a 10-week-old embryo and a live infant. Okay, not only developmentally, but in the way the law treats it and in the way the parents treat the child. And I can speak from both, to something the previous caller said and also address some of what you said, is that my partner and I faced a lot of these decisions because she was, I believe, 36 when our son was born. And so there was a lot of concern about, are we going to be dealing with some devastating chromosomal abnormality? And in some cases, you can't find out about that until you're in the second trimester. And so, we actually had to confront a lot of these issues because, we very much wanted this child. And I can tell you that, from the moment you find out, whether you're having a boy or a girl, the question of what do you want a boy or a girl, doesn't matter anymore. It's I want this one. And so this child was very real to us the whole time, but we knew that there was a risk. And so we did all the genetic testing that we could, that we ethically could, because there are some risks to the pregnancy with some of these tests. So we went forward with a lot of assurance that he was perfectly normal, and it turns out that he was. But we had to be prepared to make a very devastating decision to terminate a pregnancy if it turned out that he had a chromosomal abnormality and had no hope of possibly even surviving his own birth. So I think that there is a lot of room for ethical decisions like that for parents, and I think that it's appropriate that parents have the freedom to make those decisions. Yeah, so from that perspective, I'm pro-life. I mean, pro-choice. From the other perspective, I guess you would call me pro-life because, I don't want people terminating pregnancies because they don't feel like they have another choice or because they got pregnant by accident or something like that. And so, in that sense, I would prefer that we have better sex education and we are able to prevent these pregnancies so that people don't have to confront those decisions because I know how difficult they are.
To address kind of your rights question and to give my own view, because my view departs a little bit from Jen's, and there's a broad spectrum, as I mentioned before. Atheism, as it's not a religion, it's not a worldview, it's not a philosophy, it's simply a response to theism, means that you don't believe in a God, which doesn't say anything about what you do believe. So there we have, we have atheists who are pro-life, pro-choice, somewhere in between, depending on the issue. My view, number one, I don't have a womb, so and I don't want to use that as a cop-out, because I can still have an opinion on the issue. I think there's a room for some challenge on the gray zone of where the father's rights may or may not exist. But in general, my view is that the fetus isn't a person, doesn't have the rights of a person. I'm generally okay with the cutoff line that we've established for abortions, because I tend to view the kind of viability of a fetus to survive on its own outside of the mother, the arrival of the majority of brain function. I think that's a fairly reasonable cutoff point. I mean, it's hard to, where do you draw a line? I mean, you've got a blastocyst, which is a handful of cells, and then you've got a fetus that's 8 months and 3 weeks, which could easily survive on its own. There's, you can't distinguish that from a baby that's born, but you can distinguish it back here. My other concern is that we're talking about the rights of two individuals. We're talking about the rights of a parent, the pregnant woman, and the rights of the potential person or fetus. I'm not saying that an unborn child should have absolutely no rights, that it's non-existent, that it is something we can just completely ignore. These are real issues. But, I tend to kind of agree with I'd say the rights of the living person who already has rights, who is a productive member of society, whose health is a factor, I think their rights trump it. And while I'm not a fan of abortion, especially as Jen pointed out, as a means of kind of retroactive birth control, I have no problem at all with the way abortion laws are established now, and I'm pro-choice because I think the rights of that individual, the pregnant individual, are the ones that are of primary concern.
Okay, and one more question, and I'll let you guys move on, but without turning this, of course, into a strictly abortion conversation. But then on that note, would you then support, assuming technology, let's hypothetically say that technology advances to the point to where even, a embryo a week old could survive and be nurtured all the way until a full pregnancy in some artificial womb or something, assuming, that, like I said, the technology could advance to that point, would you then support abolishing abortion laws, because at that point then the rights become apparent, because
Sure.
it's an individual.
I'm not saying
the
sure.
ambiguity to me seems like, because I guess I would say, where do you draw the line also, because it seems, I guess the same way you said it, I would say it. So.
Well, I guess it's kind of a moot point, because if you're talking about transferring an embryo from a woman's womb to some artificial device that would then